Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you for your support. Today we're going to talk about something that I talked about literally maybe 7-8 months ago. I did a video called EGADS, I have not been scammed, and I got a little pushback on that. I mean, some people said I was looking through the world through rose-colored glasses, which is true, and some people said that I was being dishonest and setting it up for other people to fail and get ripped off, and I totally denied that. I wanted to say, and I will always say, what I'm telling you are my experience. Your mileage may vary. So today we're going to talk about a subject that happened to me maybe right after I made that video, let's say 5-6 months ago. I saw an apartment that looked really nice. It was newer. It was about 4 stories, bigger 1 bedrooms, quiet, and they had a sign out. And it said room or apartment for rent. Really, I think it actually, I'm actually looking at it now, and it might have actually said room for rent, but it said apartment below it. And so I was with my girlfriend, and I said, "Hey, why don't you go check that out?" Well, unfortunately, the woman who we needed to talk to had seen her with me, and so she went over and said, "Hey, Po," and spoke in Tagalog and said, "How much is the room? Is it available? What floor?" And the woman quickly said, "No, it's rented." And my girlfriend pointed to the signs, "It's rented." And that was all she said. Well, we kept an eye on that sign. It was up there for 3 weeks. And finally, it was taken down. And then, funny enough, let's just say 6 or 7 months later, the sign went back up. My point is that through all of my time here in the Philippines, I really haven't seen the prejudice or the discrimination that I so saw in the chat groups. Before I came here, I got involved with a lot of chat groups. I watched a ton of videos, and there was this thread going through the chat groups, which is why I'm not actually in the chat groups anymore. There was this thread in the chat groups about how, the scammers and people take advantage of you. And one of the terms that I heard, and I'll be honest with you, it concerned me, and that was skin tax. And that's, I have traveled the world somewhat, and I've spent time, I've worked in Africa, I've worked in Europe, and I really I've worked in Jamaica, didn't really see a lot of outright discrimination. Rightfully or wrongfully, I saw more in my country, sad to say, than I've seen anywhere else in the world. Anyway, with that said, fast forward, first time said, fast forward to here. And when I got here, I was really on guard for that, for that skin tax, for that discrimination. And I didn't see it. And I said this in the video, I really didn't. I kind of saw almost the opposite. I saw people genuinely being kind and nice. And I think in that video, I literally dropped a bonehead. I literally dropped my credit card and or money 3 or 4 times easily. And twice was my debit card on the jeepney, or jeepney, however you want to pronounce it. And one had an older woman and one had an older man. Both of them pointed down. Po. Actually, they didn't point. They did the lip thing. And I looked down there, and there was my debit card. And I couldn't believe it. I shook my head, and I salamat po, and thanked them very much. And then recently, the last time this happened, I actually dropped some pesos, maybe 100, 150 pesos. And a kid followed after me and said, Po, you dropped this. And in the video I talked about that kid could have easily have kept that. I never would have known. Again, I think that my wallet situation is fluid, and I have one now for the last 7-8 months that I believe works. And plus I have a whole another money system because the money is so different here. But the point is that 4 or 5 times for sure, I've had Filipinos step up to the plate, return my debit card or return pesos. So that said, the only place that I've literally really seen And I don't call it a skin tax. And that's with taxis. And unfortunately, yeah, it's Manila. It's widespread. As I've met friends, professionals in Manila, and worked with some on different levels, men and women, what I've been told is that, hey, it's not a skin tax, it's a money tax. If you're perceived to have money, whether you're a Filipino or an Australian or, French, British, American, if you're perceived to have pesos, it's that kind of tax. And we've really noticed it on transportation in particular, not so much jeepneys or buses, because buses are pretty set. And I think I told you that the Rick tip number one that I do is I watch to see what the locals do in front of me, and then I do what they do. So if the bus fee is 99 pesos or 97 pesos all the way to PTEX, which is to Manila, I watch them in front of me, and I have that ready. When I take the trike, I think I told you this tip too, I don't wait for them to say how much is it. I just know what my Filipino friends are paying. And they're paying anywhere between 35 to 40 pesos, roughly that, to get to where we're going in the trike. And I just have that ready, and I have it out. And I usually have a bunch of coins, so they have to count it. And sometimes I give 41, 42. I'm not a big fan of change, as you see, as I leave it around the country. So I just give them 40, 42, 45, whatever. Some guy actually on here said that he just gives them 50 pesos. And that's cool. Do what you got to do, or do what you please to do. My point of this video is that I saw with this one rental, and I discovered with doing some little legwork, is that she does not like to rent to foreigners. There's a perception, actually, with several landlords around here, that they go by Stoicism Rule 2, or they don't, that foreigners tend to complain more. And I'm not saying that's a lie or not a lie. And some landlords have it really in their head that we complain a lot. Now, on the other side of that, my landlady, she sees it as this way. Foreigners, I always pay my rent or my water bill the moment I get it. I don't sit on it. I normally pay my rent, early. And it's not because I want to get early. I just want to get it done with, and I'm thinking about it, and so I just pay it. And I like the fact of being ahead, ahead of the game. I've oftentimes paid my rent 2 months, so I just don't have to think about it. But getting back to this landlord, or other landlords like her, what I discovered is this landlord liked to rent to hospital people. She had a apartment building full of nurses, of doctors. That was her gig. And back home on my street, on my tree-lined street, which I sometimes miss, it was so wide and quiet, I had one of my neighbors. We all had homes, obviously, single family, and he tended to rent to traveling nurses and doctors. That was his thing. He preferred them. He knew their charges, who they reported to. He knew they had good income, and knew that overall they were reliable. So I get it. The point that I'm making is that this landlady was the first time in almost 2 years that I've ever had anybody do that on such a big scale. And quite frankly, as I said in the Stoicism, I don't really care if that's what she wants to do. That's what she wants to do. It was no skin off of mine. There was plenty of other places to rent. The reason I'm making this, though, is I actually kind of denied it in my first video, and now I've seen it. And again, you're going to see that here and there, and something, instead of costing 30 pesos, the foreigner with money is going to be 40 pesos. Big deal, And sometimes it's a matter of principle, and other times it just, I just don't care. A perfect other example is my hair, which I haven't found somebody in a while because everybody keeps leaving the province. But when I had my hair first done in Cebu, I paid, I think it was 225 or 250 pesos. And my girlfriend was just, she was all up in cinch because that's too much and you shouldn't be paying that much. This guy spent 45 minutes, did my beard, he shaved, he massaged my shoulders, and he was working. I mean, he really worked for that 45, 50 minutes. Whereas back home, I think I've said this, one of my clients was a salon, and so we did a trade. With that being said, I know for a fact that the rates, they were going for men anywhere between 30 and 50, 60 bucks, depending on what you had done. And for women, oh my God, I've known women, especially my sister up in Petaluma, up in Northern California. She worked, she's an esthetician. Her place was charging $200-$300 for women to have their hair coiffed and colored and, how many, was that 15,000 pesos or more? So paying 200 or 300 pesos, I didn't really feel was outrageous, no matter what the locals were paying. So with that being said, I guess my point is don't listen to the chat groups. Make your own decisions. Be aware and be wary. Try to look at the person in front of you if you can, and what are they paying for that fish, that squid? And a lot of people, they won't go to the market or they won't go to a place that doesn't have prices marked. What do you think? Is that your deal? You won't go to a place that doesn't have a price marked? I understand it. And I kind of agree with it. However, like I said, I'm a nosy, and so I'll go up and listen to what they charge the guy before me, and I'll just assume that's what I'm going to pay. So again, would love to hear from your feedback and your experiences. This has been Rich in the Philippines.